I'm Bill Schaefer with Mark Middleton, and you're listening to the Growing Bolder radio show. And we're talking today in the studio to a couple people we think exemplify Growing Bolder probably more than anybody that we know. We're talking about the legendary Roger McGuinn, founder of the Byrds, and a guy who is just doing some amazing things right now, and his wife, Camilla. And we had just gotten to where Mr. Tambourine Man was recorded and put out there, and then suddenly, Roger, it just catches fire.
Well, after 4 months sitting in the can, as they say, it finally got released, and by about June of '65, it was running up the charts, and I think it got to number one by June 21st or somewhere around there. And it was a thrill and sort of a shock, and it was also very strange because we were still broke. We'd been scuffling musicians on the street, relying on just whatever money we could find from, whatever gigs we could get or coffee houses and things. And I remember hearing Mr. Tambourine Man go by on a convertible full of people, a nice shiny new convertible, and we didn't have cars. And I'm going, something's wrong with this picture. What's going on here? And it took it takes a while. If you get a hit record, you don't just get money immediately. It takes a long time for
still does.
Well, we're still waiting on Arista. That was 20 years ago.
And Sony.
And Sony, yeah. But
Is it one of those things, Roger? Did it change your life in an instant, though? Were you treated differently? Did you suddenly get thrown into this busy world where you have to be here and there and you're constantly in demand?
Yeah. Yes. Short answer is yes. At first, not so. We were just playing Ciros and doing gigs. And the gigs back then were they didn't have good rock and roll venues. We'd play bowling alleys and sometimes private parties. We played for Jane Fonda's birthday party. And I remember playing a party at Wally Cox's house where Sean Connery was there and Marlon Brando. And it was really amazing. It was really an amazing time. But yes, they did start to treat us differently. One of the most dramatic examples is when we all walked into Columbia Records offices, and they treated us like dirt, like scum off the street, until the secretary went in and talked to somebody higher up who told her who we were, and she came back and got us coffee, and and I had a physical sensation of being on an elevator, and it was just going up really fast, like the elevators in New York. They go up 90 miles an hour. It was like, whoa! It was an exhilarating feeling.
And that's something that a lot of musicians went through, and the elevator came down fast and came down hard, and it was tough to deal with for people. It was a weird era, Roger, a weird time in America. Did fame almost consume you?
I probably was not as nice a person as I am now during it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and see an external camera on the whole thing. But it does. It's an insidious thing. Nobody can prepare you for fame. They prepare you for music. You can learn how to play. You can learn how to sing. You can learn how to tap dance. But you can't really learn how to deal with fame. And some people handle it better than others.
You were always, though, Roger, from the beginning, a true musician and a guy who saw things outside of the box. And maybe there's no better example of that than what you did with your Rickenbacker, your 12-string guitar. Not only creating a new sound, but understanding, as I understand it, how to compress the sound in a way that hadn't been done before, so that you created that jingle jangle. And I know you don't have the Rickenbacker with you today, but can you describe for us a little bit about how that happened?
Well, I'll tell you, some of the technique that I use, I learned from Earl Scruggs, and it's the three-finger picking. And a lot of it is folk picking, it's two-finger picking. Or Travis picking, as they call it, three-finger picking. So I incorporated all the folk things I knew into what I did with rock and roll. And the compression on the Rickenbacker was something that Columbia Records engineers came up with. I think because they were afraid we were going to break their equipment with our rock and roll. So they put compression on it, and it really enhanced the sound of the Rickenbacker. It made it sustain a longer time, and that was a wonderful thing. A lot of tune there. There we go. The song Turn, Turn, Turn was one that I learned from Pete Seeger when I was going to his concerts. And then I worked with Judy Collins on her third album as an accompanist. And finally, I was musical director. And later, I was in the Byrds, and somebody asked me if I knew Turn, Turn, Turn. And I said, yeah. And I started playing it differently because the original chord pattern was, to everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. And I put a Beatle beat to it, and it went. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. Everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to end, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I'm sure it's not too late.
Roger McGuinn and Turn, Turn, Turn. Roger, are you surprised that it sounds so timeless? You could have recorded that today, and you would have still have had a huge hit with it.
I think what makes that song so good is that it's from thousands of years ago, and it really is timeless, both the sentiment in the lyrics and the melody, because Pete Seeger used a very simple melody that sounds like it's been around forever, too. And that's what's great about folk music. It is a timeless art form.
And the sound that you create with that guitar, it sounds like there's three different instruments working at the same time. I don't know how you do that. And if I may, your voice sounds as good today as it did 40 years ago. What do you do to keep it in that kind of shape?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? You just said 40. You've been in the business 50.
Yeah.
You've lost 10 years.
Oh, my gosh.
In fact,
60 years ago.
June 17th. Was my 50th anniversary as a professional musician.
That's amazing.
That's the day the Limelighters flew me to Los Angeles to record with them on RCA. And I differentiate between being a coffee house singer and getting $10 a night and working with the Limelighters as being a professional musician.
Well, let's talk about that when we come back, Roger. Let's talk about what you did before to end up where you are now, how you're keeping your passions satisfied, and what you're doing in your life to stay as fulfilled and rewarded as you can. We'll be back with Roger McGuinn in just a minute.
All right.
You guys are so good.
We could go 3 hours.
Yeah, we forgot about it.
We forgot all about your anniversary.
Yeah, we forgot.